What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar going into tomorrow, what the news is saying about Tesla, and what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I begin devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moon deposit $100, you are guaranteed 7 free stocks. And the offer ends very soon, just about 10 hours from now. So check it out before they run out, guys. 10 hours are left for this deal. Anyways, for the market, I want to talk about something very important. When it comes to the way Tesla is moving, as you guys can see for the last couple of months, Tesla has been developing a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. Now, with the way Tesla is moving, one could even argue that Tesla has a very, very big range that it could still be stuck in for this to be valid. So there is potential for Tesla to still remain range bound for now. But the ultimate move is likely going to be to the upside as we approach the summertime for the June to July period. Now, for the short term, however, we're not really in that June to July period just yet. Tesla can still continue to consolidate. It's even possible for Tesla to dip just a bit to retest some lows before we see a big bounce. I want to make that very, very clear. We're still kind of consolidating. We could even dip a little bit, but overall, the structure still remains bullish for the more medium term, despite what we're seeing for the short term. So I want to break down more details about Tesla, what I think will play out for tomorrow in just a few minutes. Let's first talk about some news and data. The market was very, very mixed today. The Nasdaq closed above 17,000 for the first time, whereas the Dow has slid more than 2,000 points for the first couple of moments, at least for today. With the Dow continuing to fall, with the Nasdaq continuing to climb, things were very, very mixed. The S&P 500 was also kind of flat today, despite the fact that it was down the majority of the day. It was down for most of the day before we got a little pump at the very end. And for the most part, the market was kind of all over the place for today. Nvidia also helped the market hold up to some extent. Otherwise, the market could have seen even more downside. Despite that, we have more data coming out nonetheless. Tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, May 29th, 2024. Please know that 30 minutes after the market opens, we have the Richmond Fed manufacturing report coming out. And then at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Dallas Fed services report. Basically, there's a lot of manufacturing and services data coming out for the first 30 minutes and first hour of the trading day for tomorrow. Then after that, at 11:30 a.m., we have the 17-week bill auction and more of these note auctions coming out, followed by the Fed beige book at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The main time to be watching for volatility is going to be around 30 minutes after market open, and also 1 hour after market open as well. So with that being said, it's very important for us to kind of like remember the times of volatility, how this data could affect us. And then moving forward, as another reminder, please know that for Thursday, right, 2 days from now, we have continuing and initial jobless claims coming out, not to mention the very important GDP numbers. The GDP numbers could affect how the whole market moves, so get ready for that move. And then for Friday, we have the notorious PCE data report coming out. We'll have to see what this causes for the markets. That's going to be very important as well. With that being said, make sure you're prepared for all this data that's coming out. May cause some big moves in the markets here and there. Now, for tomorrow, once again, the first 30 minutes and 1 hour of the trading day are going to be very important too. Moving forward, I just want to talk about some earnings as well. Please know that for tomorrow, it's going to be Wednesday. In the morning, we have Chewy and Dick's Sporting Goods announcing their earnings and Salesforce after the market closes. For Thursday, we actually have Kohl's, Foot Locker, Dollar General, and Best Buy. Lots of retail, followed by Costco and Dell after the market closes. That's going to be very important as well. For data about the market is quite neutral right now overall. We're not too fearful, not too greedy. We're kind of in the middle. And then market momentum is still in favor of greed. And then I also want to note that the puts and call option positioning is currently neutral. We're not seeing way too many puts out there. We're actually seeing some being closed and some more calls that are still making up the majority of positions. But we're starting to see a little shift right now. We'll see if this actually gets a big pump or not, if the market does dip. The VIX is bouncing a bit, but it hasn't broken past key resistance quite yet. So it's still technically very low and undervalued. So we'll see how this changes moving forward. As far as Tesla goes, there's some news coming out that Tesla's adding 2 awesome new features with its recent software update. I went over these in more detail in my earlier video, but basically they have adaptive matrix headlights, which will be very, very useful for curves. That's going to be very, very good for the entire driving experience. And there's going to be dimmed headlights in different situations as well to not really blind drivers around them. So that's going to be very useful. And also, when people charge their Teslas, they can now play the Beach Bunny racing sets. That's going to be very, very useful as well with new leaderboards. It's kind of cool stuff. It allows for more fun for people who are just charging their Teslas and such. Moving forward, there's also been a lot of talk about the latest shareholder meeting coming up for Tesla. I just want to note that there's been a lot of talk about how it's going to kind of move forward with this. The shareholders have been voting on many different proposals. We're going to be looking at the annual meeting on June 13th. And on top of this, I just want to note that the shareholders are going to basically meet in a way to win a factory tour with Elon Musk and friends. So they're basically being very, very much incentivized to vote. So that's a new program that's coming out as they could be meeting up with Elon Musk and such. So that's incentivizing more and more votes to be coming out. So we'll see how that goes. On top of that, volume for Tesla is only about 60 million, a little bit below average. So we're not getting a whole lot of volume. And then on top of this, we have an overweight rating saying that Tesla will eventually outperform the market. The price price ratio is also kind of flat right now, not really doing anything too crazy. And then finally, we have a tendency of seeing more volatility for Tesla. We tend to see more volatility at 10 a.m., around noon, and also around 2 p.m. So we'll see how things go for that. Moving forward, what do I see for the share price? That's the question a lot of people are asking. I'll be now talking about that for the rest of the video. So, what do I see for the markets? What is my personal opinion? Honestly, guys, Tesla's looking very indecisive right now. It's just completely range bound, not really doing anything too crazy. So, Tesla has been known we're getting these rejections around this 180 area. We have a middle area right here where our EMAs happen to be. Our key supports around this 173 to 172 area. For the last couple of weeks, it's been back. We did see a little dip before getting bought back up, but back and forth price action. Excuse me, guys. I apologize. Then we had one little pump above before we came right back down into the range, and we've been stuck pretty much for the last couple of weeks. So, in my opinion, we have resistance around 180. If we break this, look at 182. Breaking 182 would turn Tesla a lot more bullish. We could start pushing higher. If we're bearish, you want to see Tesla lose 172, we could be dipping down to 168 and even lower levels if that fails us. In my personal opinion, it depends on a lot of news, but so far it's not really affecting Tesla a whole lot, and Tesla's been range bound for the most part. Going back and forth between supply and demand. There's not really anything too crazy going on with the share price, so there's a very good chance it might just remain within the balance of this range. So I think for tomorrow, the 4 hour is showing a little bit of weakness. We could try to pop a little bit towards 178, see a dip down to 173, and just continue to trade sideways most likely. That's likely what's going to happen unless we lose support and start dipping. But the odds do favor a little pop and drop like move and some downside that's oftentimes coming. So be a little bit careful with Tesla. Could be a little dip tomorrow. For SPY, we have a very, very nice looking structure right over here that's developing. We actually have this nice looking wedge that's forming. Overall, SPY has been dipping a little bit more during the after hours. So it is showing some signs of weakness. To be bullish, you want to see it basically break 531.5. If that breaks, there is potential for 533. If you break that, then a new all-time high is coming for 540. And if we're bearish, you want to see it basically lose the 529 support. If we lose that, watch 527.5. If that fails us, I'll be watching this support at our 50 EMA, the 526 area. If we lose that, we're going to be tipping all the way down to 523 to fill the gap. If we hold that, we could bounce. Right now, when looking at SPY, we had this bearish engulfing candlestick. And like I said in my previous videos, when you look at the daily time frame, something very interesting is going on. So when I zoom out, I'll just show you guys this real quick. There's a bearish engulfing candle that happened on SPY right here. Then we're kind of coming up a bit, but typically we do see some downside after that happens. And let me show you some more proof of that. Right here, we had a bearish engulfing candle near the all-time high. Then we kind of pumped a bit. Then we continued to fall. And it happened again all the way back in July. Same kind of setup. Hold on, right over here. Let me just find where July is. The same thing happened in July as well, right over here. As we were trying to like peak, you guys could see it right here. We had this like all-time high, or we came close to approaching all-time highs. Then we got a bearish engulfing candle, went a little bit higher, then we started to dump. So it happened 3 times historically, the same setup. There are technicals that favor some downside, at least for the markets and SPY. So overall, I would be very careful, in my personal opinion, when it comes to the way things are moving. The daily is also showing a little bit of contraction. If I pull up the hourly chart, you guys will see this in more detail, that SPY is in a very, very critical place. So notice that SPY is also starting to downtrend a bit. We had a high here, came down. We made a lower high, and then we haven't made a lower low yet, but there is a risk of that happening. So this chart does look a little bit more like it's going to dip to me. Just for confirmation, make sure you watch the levels, but just know that technicals do favor some downside. So if we were to break this high, I could switch my opinion and turn more bullish if we do start breaking out. But if we end up breaking the low, the odds will favor the downside. Considering that we're dipping in the after hours and looking very weak, the odds do favor more downside. And we did close below 530 again. So I'd say the odds favor downside as a more likely possibility. For Bitcoin did pump to the 50 EMA, 68,500. Now we're kind of shuffling between supply and demand. We have 68,500 as resistance, and we happen to have support at 67,500. We've been going back and forth and back and forth. In my personal opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually dip a little bit, so watch for that. For Nvidia, Nvidia is pumping very, very nicely. We're approaching resistance currently at 1150. If we break that, look for 1160 and 1180. And for support, watch 1140. If we lose that, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 1120. Overall, we are slowing down in the hourly time frame, losing a little bit of momentum, but we're still doing a great job at our pump, and there's no sign of Nvidia breaking down. Now, is Nvidia fighting some tough resistance? Yes, but there's no sign of it losing and getting rejection, despite the fact that momentum is slowing a little bit. So I'd say overall, it's still looking bullish and there is more upside potential, and it might go a little higher tomorrow to 1160. This opens the doors for the QQQ to actually outperform SPY and go a little bit higher, but this all depends on different factors. If we break 461, we're bullish. We're going to be looking for 462.5. And if we end up losing 457 to 50 EMA, we're going to be tipping all the way down to about 455 as well. Overall, the QQQ is still holding it very well, and we'll have to see what the move ends up being. But that's going to be key for the way we end up moving. I would say that there is a risk of it coming down to 457, and we may even dip a little lower, but we have to watch for confirmation. We've been range bound for the last entire day. So watch and see which way we break. There is a risk of it coming down lower if we do get that rejection. For Aapl tried to pump today, only to dump back down. Watch resistance at 190.5 and 192. Watch support at 189.3. If we lose that, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 188. This chart does favor a little pop and drop like move all the way down to 188 in my personal opinion. So I find that to be a little bit more probable. For a few more tickers, guys, I'm going to be kind of quick with the rest of my analysis, by the way. For Neo, I see upside potential because I see a bullish catalyst. Their deliveries have been 15,400 for the first 26 days of May. That's very important because that's how many they did for all of April, and they're going to likely beat deliveries month over month. So that's going to be very good once we approach June. So in June, there's going to likely be more upside. Could we dip a little bit first? Yes, it is possible we actually fall a little bit, but we could see a very, very big bounce on Neo and a big push to break these highs and fill this gap. So look for a little dip first before we continue higher. And I think in June, there's going to be more upside coming. For Palantir, the 4 hour is showing some weakness. We have this nice uptrend being respected, but we're going to likely dip and test this white trend line before we attempt to bounce and start breaking out to 21.8. So look for a dip and a bounce is the most likely possibility. For Super Micro, we're looking a little bit more bearish to me. We are kind of turning down here. I think we could pop and then eventually drop down to a 200 EMA towards this 857 area is the most likely possibility. So I see a little bit more downside coming for Super Micro. Rivian looks a little bit bearish. Kind of rejects off for 200 EMA. Going to be looking for an easy test of about 10.28. If we lose that, we're going to be dipping all the way down to lower levels like 10 flat. So I favor that a little bit more. For SoFi, this chart looks a little bit more bearish to me if we just freeze it right over here. And I think that there's a risk of it kind of pushing and eventually dropping down here to about 6.78, and eventually making its way down to the mid sixes. The IWM Russell 2000 has a bearish looking structure, kind of like a head and shoulders. I also called out 207, then a rejection, which happened. I think we're approaching the 200 EMA at 203. So I favor a dip to 202 to 203. For AMD, we're trying to push higher towards all-time highs. I do see some more upside potential. We have this imbalance to fill around 177. If it breaks 175, look for 177. If we reject off 172, we're going to be dipping down to about 166. Overall, the chart is looking a bit more bullish in my personal opinion. For ARM, in my personal opinion, is also looking a little bit more bullish. I think we could be pushing a little higher. I think it's still showing some life. So I wouldn't be surprised if we go a little higher towards this 128 area. It might try to push a little bit from there. Then we'll see how things end up going, at least moving forward. For Coinbase, in my personal opinion, is looking a little bit more bullish. We've been holding it very, very nicely. If we continue to hold above where we currently are, we're going to be looking for a push all the way up to about 250. So watch and see if we push a little hard for 250, and we'll see how things go from there. Amazon held up very, very nicely. We have resistance on the 4 hour time frame at 182.3 and 183.5, and we have support around 180. So in my opinion, as long as we hold above 180, there's a chance it might actually try to push higher, and we could be looking for 183 plus. If we end up losing that, then there's going to be a little bit of a rejection. But I would say overall, Amazon does favor trying to hold up. It's trying to base at 180. It was kind of trading sideways here, so might dip a little bit, continue to trade sideways, and eventually try to push a little higher for 183. Meta is also showing some life, but we're at resistance at 480. 478 to 480 is resistance. If we break 480, watch 482, then 485. If we reject here, we're going to be tipping all the way down to about 472. So we'll have to see how things go. For Microsoft, in my personal opinion, is dipping a little bit. If we end up losing 428, we're going to be dipping even all the way down to about 425. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little dip on it. We have a head and shoulders like structural weakness, but losing 428 is going to be confirmation of a bigger drop. So watch and see if that happens. For Google, in my personal opinion, is also showing a little bit of weakness. Sorry, not major weakness, but a little bit of a dip could be coming right here before we try to continue higher. I want to rephrase that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we retest 177, then look for a bounce after that and a push for about close to 180. So a little dip and bounce is most likely possibility. For GameStop showing some life. We have 22 as support. If we hold above this, going to be looking for a push for 30. If we lose 22, we're going to be dipping down towards 18. But overall, I think that there's potential for this to try to push higher. For AMC, we're also looking a little bit more bullish. If we break past 5, we're going to be looking for a bigger push towards 7, at least later on in the next couple of months. But for the short term, I think that this might dip a bit, retest 4.86. If it holds that, then look for a little bounce and a move up to 5. But I don't think it's going to be that big. I think later on we could be pushing for 7 over the next couple of months, but you have to give it some time. For the dollar index, not the dollar index, sorry, the DJT stock, this to me did break through the highs we talked about. Look for a retest of about 47.65 before it tries to bounce higher and push back up to 50. For the VIX is showing some life. It wants to break out a little higher. It's actually holding up very well, but we need to break past this high. We have to break 13.5 and try to push up towards our 200 EMA at 14. We haven't really done that yet, but there is potential for it to do so as we're at a historical level on the VIX. The 10-year Treasury yield is starting to push higher again. Could we come up to fill this gap? It is possible. So we'll just have to wait and see. But that is a little bit more bearish for the markets. The dollar is also going to likely push to 104.72. So we'll see if that pushes higher, which will affect the markets as well. If it pushes more, that's going to be a little bit more bearish for the market. So we'll give it some time. Anyways, Tesla's looking very sideways, and there is a risk of it tipping a little bit, in my personal opinion. So look for a little pop and drop like move. It's going to likely remain range bound, but there is a risk of it tipping a little bit lower, in my personal opinion. So look for a test of basically a little pop to about 178 and a drop towards 173 tomorrow, and then we'll see how well it holds up if it continues to remain range bound or not. All right. Anyways, that is it for the video. I want to thank you all so much for listening. Sorry I'm kind of late today, guys. I had a little issue that kind of delayed me, but I'm still here. So have a great day, guys. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow before the market opens. Take care and peace out.